My name is Linda Carver. I'm 72 years old, and until this past March, my husband handled every single bill in our house. 42 years of marriage, and I never once paid the electric bill. That was his department. When he passed away, the quiet in the house was hard enough. But a week later, when I opened the drawer where he kept all the papers, I realized something that scared me more than I want to admit. I didn't know where anything was. Bank statements, insurance papers, pension letters, all of it was in that drawer. And I just sat there at the kitchen table staring at it. Now, if you're watching this because you lost your husband recently, first let me say something important. You are not alone, and you are not behind. There are thousands of women every year who suddenly find themselves in the same situation. A lifetime partner gone, and with him, the person who handled the finances. It feels overwhelming. I know that feeling. But here's the truth I learned during those first few months. You don't have to figure everything out at once. You just need to know the first few things that matter. Because the first 90 days after a spouse passes away are when several important financial steps happen. Social Security changes, banks need paperwork, pensions get reviewed, taxes shift in ways nobody warned you about. And if nobody walks you through those things, it's very easy to make mistakes that cost money later. I started writing everything down on a yellow legal pad at my kitchen table. One phone call at a time, one step at a time. And today I want to walk you through the same checklist I used. Not complicated financial theory, just the 6 practical things I handled in the first 90 days after my husband passed. The things every widow should know. Now, the very first thing that has to happen, before banks, before benefits, before anything else, is paperwork. Let's start there. When my husband passed, the funeral director asked how many certified copies of the death certificate I wanted. I said 2. That sounded reasonable to me. Turns out, that was nowhere near enough. Here's something nobody explains beforehand. Banks need them. Insurance companies need them. Pension administrators need them. Social Security often needs one. Investment companies sometimes need them. Even the car title office may ask for one. And most of those organizations require certified copies, not photocopies. That means the official version with the raised seal. So here's the first thing I want you to write down. Order around 10 certified copies of the death certificate. 10 sounds like a lot, I know. I thought so too. But it saves you from constantly requesting new ones later, which can take weeks. Most funeral homes can order them directly from the county records office for you. Each copy usually costs somewhere around $15 to $20, depending on the state. And yes, I remember thinking, why am I paying for 10 of these things? But let me tell you, when the bank asks for one, and the insurance company asks for another, and the pension office asks for one too, You will be glad you have them ready. That stack of paperwork becomes your key to unlocking everything else. So before you worry about accounts or benefits, make sure you have those certified copies in hand. Because once the paperwork is handled, the next thing you need to understand is your Social Security. And this is where a lot of women accidentally leave money on the table. A few weeks after my husband passed, my Social Security deposit changed. And I remember staring at my bank statement, wondering what had happened. Here's how survivor benefits work in plain language. When you're married, each spouse may have their own Social Security benefit. But when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse usually receives the higher of the two benefits. So if your husband was receiving more than you were, your benefit typically increases to match his. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say your Social Security benefit was $1,200 a month, and your husband's benefit was $2,000 a month. After he passes away, the survivor benefit would typically become about $2,000 a month. That difference can matter a lot. But here's the important part. You should always call Social Security and confirm what benefit you are receiving, because the system does not always automatically apply the correct benefit right away. Now here's the number I want you to write down. Social Security's national line is 1-800-772-1213. When you call, ask a simple question. Am I receiving the full survivor benefit available to me? That one sentence can make a big difference. And let me say something else here. Stay with me on this next part, because it's where timing can matter. Sometimes widows have options about when to claim certain benefits, especially if they were not yet receiving their own retirement benefit. In some cases, waiting or switching strategies can increase lifetime income. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I always say that. And every situation is different. But that's exactly why making that call matters. You want the Social Security representative to explain your options clearly. Because once you understand your monthly income, you can move on to the next step. And that step involves your bank accounts. This is the part that surprised me the most. I assumed that because our bank account had both our names on it, nothing would change. But that's not always how it works. Some banks temporarily restrict or review accounts after one account holder passes away, especially if paperwork hasn't been processed yet. So here's what I did. I went to the bank in person with 3 things: my identification, a certified death certificate, and a small notebook with my questions written down. Now here's the phrase you want to ask the bank representative. I need to update or retitle any accounts that were in my husband's name. They will guide you through what needs to happen. Sometimes it's simple. removing the spouse's name. Other times you may need to update beneficiaries. And I'm going to be honest with you. Before that day at the bank, I didn't even know what a beneficiary designation was. I really didn't. A beneficiary is simply the person listed to receive the account if something happens to you. And if those designations are outdated, it can create confusion for your family later. So while you're at the bank, ask them to review those as well. This is one of those quiet little steps that prevents big headaches down the road. Okay, that covers the accounts. Now let's talk about something that can affect your income for years to come. Your husband's pension. My husband worked in a union job for most of his life, and he had a pension when he retired. But here's the thing. When someone retires with a pension, they often choose something called a survivor option. That option determines whether the spouse continues receiving part of the pension after the retiree passes away. And many families don't remember what option was chosen. I certainly didn't. So one of the calls on my yellow legal pad was to the pension administrator. And here's the exact question I asked. What survivor benefit election was chosen when my husband retired? That one question tells you everything you need to know. For example, some pensions continue 100% of the payment to the surviving spouse. Others continue 50%. And some pensions stop entirely if no survivor option was selected. Let me give you an example so it makes sense. If the pension payment was $1,500 per month, and the plan had a 50% survivor option, the surviving spouse might continue receiving around $750 monthly. That's important information to know, because it affects how you plan the rest of your finances. And once you understand your Social Security and pension income, you have a clearer picture of your monthly money. But before we finish, there's one thing almost nobody warns widows about: taxes. And this one caught me completely off guard. A few months after my husband passed, I met with our tax preparer, and that's when I heard a phrase I had never heard before: the widow's penalty. Here's what it means in simple terms. When you're married, you usually file taxes as married filing jointly. That status has certain tax brackets and deductions. But after the year your spouse passes away, you eventually begin filing as a single taxpayer. And the tax brackets for single filers are different, sometimes significantly different. Let me give you a simplified example. A married couple earning $60,000 may fall comfortably within one tax bracket, but a single person earning the same $60,000 could move into a higher bracket faster. Same income, different tax structure. Now, when my tax preparer explained this to me, I remember saying, "Wait a minute, the income hasn't changed." And she said, "Exactly, but the filing status has." So here's the step I want you to take. Before the next tax season arrives, Schedule a meeting with a tax professional. Ask them 3 simple questions. First, how will my filing status change next year? Second, should I adjust my tax withholding? Third, are there any strategies I should consider now before the year ends? Those conversations can prevent unpleasant surprises later. And once that piece is handled, there's one more resource I want every widow to know about. Because you don't have to figure all of this out alone. About 2 months after my husband passed, a friend from church handed me something that helped more than she probably realized. It was a printed checklist from an organization called the Women's Institute for a Secure Retirement. Their website is wiserwomen.org. And what they do is provide financial guidance specifically designed for women in retirement, including widows. They offer guides, checklists, and counseling resources that walk through the same kinds of decisions we're talking about here. And when I read through their widow checklist, I remember thinking something very simple. Why didn't anyone give this to me sooner? So here's what I recommend. Go to wiserwomen.org and download their Widow Financial Checklist. Even if you only tackle one item at a time, having that roadmap can make everything feel more manageable. Because that's really what this stage of life becomes. Not solving everything overnight, just taking the next clear step. If you're sitting at your kitchen table right now, feeling overwhelmed, I want you to hear this. You don't have to master the entire financial system. You just need a simple starting list. Here's the one I followed. Order several certified death certificates. Call Social Security and confirm your survivor benefit. Visit the bank and update account titles and beneficiaries. Contact the pension administrator and confirm the survivor election. Meet with a tax professional about the widow's tax change, and download the widow checklist from wiserwomen.org. That's it. 6 steps, one at a time. I still keep that yellow legal pad on my kitchen table. Every phone call goes on that list. Every question, every answer. And slowly, the things that once felt confusing start to make sense. Now, I always say this. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just a woman who had to learn this quickly after losing her husband. Before you make any big financial decisions, it's always wise to talk with a professional who understands your specific situation. But the important thing is this. Now you know what many widows never get told, and knowing is what changes everything. If this helped you even a little, share it with another woman who might need it. And subscribe if you want more practical guidance like this.